Hey, it's Jason. This is not a video diary entry. I'm going to stick this one straight onto Twitter, I think. A kind of an addendum, a follow-up to the video that I just posted today about the effect of small delays in inner loops, inner feedback loops, on those outer feedback loops, and in particular on sort of feature lead times, how even tiny changes in the development cycle time can lead to big delays, long queues basically on your backlog. Now, I thought what would be fun to do would be to flip it around and say, so what I was doing originally, let's just change that back, was I was demonstrating with these sort of two threads, each sort of looping. One thread, let's call it the customer thread, is adding features to a backlog, basically. And then on a separate thread, our developer thread, we're taking those features off the backlog and we're completing them. And those times are recorded in milliseconds, and we're able, therefore, to calculate the average amount of time that feature is essentially sitting on the backlog. And in the demonstration in the video diary entry I did today, we made just a small change. Let's do it now, actually, even like a 10% change. So let's make a 10% change. So at the moment, it takes the feature lead time for 100 features in this little setup is about 15 milliseconds. I equated milliseconds to days. So I said 10 milliseconds is 1 day. So let's make it 1 day and 1 hour, for example. So we're increasing the development time very slightly, and seeing what that does to the overall cycle time, the overall feature lead time. Well, off it goes. Remember, it was 1.5 days. Now it's over 6 days. That's over a week on a 5-day week, just from that 10% change. That's the amount of time that feature essentially is sitting on the backlog waiting for the developers to pick it up. Okay, let's change that back. So what I thought would be fun to do, rather than repeating the original video, would be to ignore that loop. Let's not focus our attention here. Let's focus our attention on the backlog and on the customer and all of that stuff. So what happens if that slows down? What happens if the customer feedback loop is slow? So let's increase that by 10%. So remember, it was around 15 milliseconds to begin with. So now, instead of adding a feature to the backlog every day, every 10 milliseconds, it's every day and a bit. So slightly longer cycle times. Okay, now let's see what that does to the overall lead time for features. But it seems to get even faster. How strange. Let's double it. So now the customer is only adding a feature to the backlog every 2 days. What does that do to the responsiveness of the dev team? Okay, so we've doubled the cycle time on the customer thread. It's still pretty fast. Let's times it by 10. So now let's say that we're interacting with our customer 10 times less often now. We're getting 10 times less input from them. Okay, let's see what that does to the overall delivery lead time. Taking a lot longer, obviously. Hopefully it will finish soon. It's 100 milliseconds times 100. It's roughly 10 seconds. Again, it's not making any difference to the lead time. Let's make it 500. Are you willing to sit here and watch this? And I will keep you amused. I'm quite amused to see myself what it does to the lead times. It does nothing to the feature lead times. Now, obviously, development is slowing down because we're getting far less features. So we're waiting, in this example, we're waiting 50 days for each new feature. That is going to slow things down. But remember that agility is not about speed. It's about responsiveness. So maybe the customer only wants us to change the software every 50 days. The question then is, how soon can we respond to that need? Remember, agility is not speed, it's responsiveness. And this is going to take a while. Obviously, if we were building a big complex system at this kind of speed, it would be a very long project. But remember, agility is not about speed, it's about responsiveness. So what does this do to the dev team's responsiveness? So when they get a feature, how soon can they deliver that feature? Hardly any change at all. Hardly any change at all. And that you might think, well, that's very surprising. It's not when you think about it. It ties in completely with this whole idea of inner loop agility. The key to real agility, real responsiveness to customers' needs, lies within those innermost feedback loops, in particular the build and test loop, as I've talked about in another video. So I thought that was a fun little demonstration there to just optimize or play or noodle with the other end. And let's see what happens if we speed the customer up. So now it's a new feature request every half a day. This is probably going to be a bit of a train wreck. So remember, it was around 15 milliseconds per feature. Yeah, that makes a big difference. What you want is fast dev cycles, not fast customer interaction. If the customer interaction is too fast, then you end up with a big queue, and big queues, like backlogs, create big delays. In this case, a delay of 13 or 14 days. So it really is those innermost loops, those dev cycles, that are the key to achieving responsiveness. That's the thing that you need to be focusing on. And as I've said in other videos and in blog posts and everywhere else, and stood on street corners and shouted at clouds, shaking my fist at the world, most agile transformations are focusing on the wrong feedback loops. I'm not saying the other feedback loops don't matter. What I'm saying is they're all for naught. You do need a good relationship with the customer. You do need that regular customer interaction very frequently and all of that. But if your dev cycles, if those innermost feedback loops are slow, then all you've really got is a kind of agility theatre. It's not real agility at all because you're not being responsive. So there you go. I thought that was a kind of fun video to record. Keep watching the video diaries. Keep watching the Twitter feed. Slick as ever.